Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Elets Technomedia and BMC Software, I would like to warmly transformation in the new normal. To begin with, we would like to extend our sincere thanks to our valued sponsor, BMC Software, an information technology and services company who helps their customers reinvent their businesses with open, scalable, and modular solutions. Also, I would like to extend our sincere thanks to esteemed speakers and importantly, our valued delegates who have chosen to collaborate with us to be part of this powerful initiative and for graciously supporting this event. So now let's quickly get to the panel discussion on navigating the digital transformation in the new normal. Here, we mainly focus on latest trends in the digital transformation and how IT leaders are reducing complexities in hybrid environment. To take this session ahead, I would like to welcome the moderator, Mr. Deepak Singla, Director Sales, BMC Software. Over to you, Mr. Deepak Singla.
Thank you so much, Nishant, and I extend a very warm welcome and a very good evening to our audience today. It's an absolute pleasure for me for BMC Software to be partnering with Elets and to be hosting this session today. As we have seen the title of this particular event, Paving the Way to Digital Transformation in the New Normal. The word new normal is no more unusual to any of us. Every single individual in the world has been touched by what all of us have seen in the last 20 odd months. The world has truly gone digital. Smallest of things that we used to do manually now happen over a digital means. Simplest of things like ordering medicine, buying groceries, and delivering any kind of service as a service provider is now happening over a mobile device. So the push that the world has seen on digital has been unprecedented and has never been witnessed before. While doing so, every organization has faced multiple challenges. With lockdowns coming in, most organizations had to reinvent the way they were running the business. They had to find their own normal and their employees and their customers on how they ensure business continuity and ensuring customer satisfaction while moving to digital. When I look in the past, there are four specific areas that me and my organization BMC Software has seen as the drivers of change in the last 20 months. The first is the need for automation. As lockdowns were announced, most of us had to work from home. Most of our employees, most of our IT operations management people, the same teams that used to travel from their home to offices, sit in the data centers, and manage the day-to-day operations now had no option but to work from home. And that requirement of working remotely pushed every single organization in the world to look at newer means of doing the same jobs. And that is where automation came in. The things that we had heard in the IT domain day in and day out, AI ops, AI ML, they were now leveraged to deliver capabilities like auto remediation of day-to-day IT problems, closed loop change automations, and many more. So that is the first shift towards automation that came in. The second shift that came in was a focus or renewed focus on security. With people working from home, administrators working from home, all kinds of approvals happening remotely, the security had to be loosened to allow those remote access. And that is the opportunity that most hackers and malware creators were looking for. And therefore, the number of cyber attacks in the last 20 months increased manifold. So that generated a renewed focus on establishing security within IT operations management in each organization. The third and a very important shift that came is cloud migration. Because it was becoming difficult for most organizations to manage their own infra in their own data centers, the shift towards cloud, the shift towards SaaS came in. So we saw most of our customers and most organizations finding ways of doing business remotely, accessing the same systems in an anywhere, anytime mode. And SaaS and cloud made that possible. So if you look at the biggies like AWS, Google, Microsoft, and many others, they all ramped up their infrastructure in order to provide seamless services to this great set of masses in the form of organizations big and small who adopted cloud and SaaS. And the last, but one of the most important shift that came is a renewed focus on customer and employee experience. Each of us consume many services. And when we as customers consume that service, all that we want is a world-class experience with that service. And same is the story when we look at ourselves as an employee of our own respective organizations, that I am working from home. How is my organization taking care of my IT needs and non-IT needs? I could have a need related to HR, a need related to legal, a need related to procurement, and how is my organization responding to me while I am working remotely? And that is where the emergence of world-class service management practices came into each organization. So these are the four key drivers that have been leading the world and making sure that business continuity and sustainable growth stay intact in the changing world that we are living in today. So the focus today will be largely on the first part that I talked about, where the need for automation, the usage of AI ops and AI ML, and bringing in the key capabilities to deliver business growth are concerned. And that will be something that will be a key agenda for today's discussion. I'm very honored that I have the presence of some experienced and well-respected CXOs who will be very delighted themselves to share their experience and their knowledge with us on the key topic at hand. So it is my absolute pleasure and honor to invite all the panelists. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Vrinda Rai, Director Information Systems, 24/7 AI. Welcome, Vrinda.
Hi, good evening. Thank you so much, Deepak. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Vrinda. The next panelist is Mr. Siva Subramanian, Global CIO, VA Tech Webbag Limited. Thank you, Siva. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you, Deepak. Pleasure is mine.
I'm delighted to bring in my next panelist, Mr. Tushar Zede, CIO and CDO, Origin Pharmaceuticals. Welcome, Tushar. Pleasure to have you with us today.
Hey, hi, Deepak. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Tushar. I would like to invite next another well-respected personality, Mr. Celestine Thomas, General Manager at Nissan Digital. Welcome, Celestine. Thank you so much. I have two more panelists who will be joining during the course of the discussion. I'll be honored to invite them, but I want to let the audience know that I will have Mr. Durga Prasad Swaminathan, Executive Vice President and CIO, Chola Mandalam Investments. And we will also have Mr. Sanjay Verma, Vice President IT, Acom Drugs and Pharmaceuticals. So we will have them as we proceed with the discussion. So thank you to all panelists for joining in and to be here to share your views. So I'll start with Mr. Siva today. Siva, you have been leading the IT journey at VA Tech Webbag for quite some time. What we have seen is that in the last 20 months, a lot of disruption has come into business operations, specifically around supporting our business applications through always available infra and supporting elements. Would you be happy to share the specific challenges that you faced while ensuring the uptime, performance, upkeep of your business applications for your customers?
Okay. Thank you, Deepak. I think it's apt question for me. We are the first industry where I represent a company called VA Tech Webbag. So we are one of the water technology company, and we are kind of EPC and essential services company. We have seen the entire cycle of working from home and working from office in a phased manner. Now we are completely working from office maybe for close to a year now. So I think there are lots of challenges which has been faced during the pandemic, because we never thought that this particular sector, EPC sector, is very can work from home. Not even thought about it in the dream. So I think it has come true, courtesy to pandemic. I think it has proved that it is possible. Every sector and business is possible to do the business through the working from home or remote locations. And it is also opened up to the idea for many of the management team members as well as the business team that yes, it is possible, and we have done a lots of things work around to. To be frank, I think we were not ready to be in a work from home scenario. For example, most of the people who are engineering or design specific systems, which are all very workstation specific, which is not even have a kind of Wi-Fi controller and stuff like that. This is from the infrastructure perspective. I think as a country, the network availability at remote locations has been a challenge in many of the locations. For the remote locations, people have gone there and not able to access very heavy network intensified applications and all that. The lessons learned is that whatever the applications which we develop, I think it should be a platform agnostics. That is number one. And I think it should also be a kind of a device agnostic. So you should not have a dependency on this particular device. Only the applications will work at that particular applications only. The devices only will application work. So I think the lessons learned is that whatever the applications which any organization develops, it should be a kind of platform agnostic as well as the device agnostic, so that it's easy and it should not be a network intensification. That is one. And as far as the security is concerned, I think it is very important that we all need to secure our business wherever they are. It is like currently, whatever you may call it as WAN, LAN, whatever it is, now everything is extended. Their home is also now is like extended office. So security is very important portion at this point of time. I think that it needs lots of concentration in terms of how do you protect your applications, how do you protect your information assets like infrastructure, and how do you protect from all the kind of every day there is some kind of security alerts and threats are coming. So recent one is being Lak4j. So that is one thing. I think that is also be very. It should not be vulnerable to the any of the whatever so-called systems. And the majority of things like engineering applications all have very intensified network utilization. So that I think that was one challenge which has been faced. And apart from that, as I said, most of the people are working from home and they'll be connected to your corporate network. It is very important that you protect your network as well as you protect your information assets at the end point. So accessing VPN, so most of the time what happens is your assets may not work and people may have their own personal devices and they want to come and connect to your corporate network through their personal devices. We don't know at this point of time like what is there in their system. So that is also one challenge I think most of the organizations will be facing it. So yeah, these are the major high-level things I think what we have faced across this last 20 months.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Siva. I think that provides us great insights, and I could see nodding heads because most of us were facing similar challenges, and I could see everyone agreeing to the same challenges that they faced as well. Thank you, Siva. I'll move on to Tushar. Tushar, one industry in the last 20 months that has faced demand challenges like nobody else is pharma. One, of course, on the vaccine front, that whole world wanted vaccine as quickly as possible back in 2020. And then anybody who is getting infected, of course, needs medicines to be made available to them. There are online portals which came up overnight to help meet the demand. So representing a pharmaceutical organization, for you ensuring your IT operations were always seamless while facing this huge demand challenge and unprecedented at that must have been a big challenge. So what has been your experience? What has been your share of challenges in ensuring availability, performance, upkeep of your infra?
Well, absolutely. I think this pharmaceutical industry has undergone a lot of changes We are no more pharmaceutical. We are more into healthcare now.
Yep.
Of course, COVID-19 has actually brought up very interesting insights for most of us. 80% of the CEOs have actually thanked COVID-19 for the accelerated digital adoption in the overall scheme of things. I was reading some article around 69% of the CEOs in the manufacturing space are actually looking forward to reskill or upskill their manpower. 69% of the people in the retail space are looking at investing in new technologies like AI, ML, RPA, and all of that stuff, which is actually a very welcome move for the IT professionals sitting here. Having said this, at the end of the day, it's a business, and the business has to run. Well, the overall digital transformation journey has three basic milestones, which we all, I'm sure, have gone through. The first one is, first and foremost, is around fix the foundation. This is where we make sure that our systems are up and ready. We identify what goes on cloud, what stays on-prem. We identify which systems to run as system of record. Maybe in SAPs of the world or the ERPs of the world, they sit here. Next is we go forward to the next level, which is digitize the core. Now, digitize the core is actually the place where we are creating some differentiators for our businesses, be it BFSI, be it any company in the world. And the final one is around digital transformation. Digital transformation is a state where all of us are ultimately going there. This is where we are creating systems of innovation. This is very unique to all of us, to our industries as such. But yes, there's a lot of movement happening here. While most of the organizations are going through this journey, few of them have actually gone to the next level of disruption. We will not talk about that as of now for today's session. But the data, you can just imagine from a maybe just a small example from a healthcare space. Again, I will take patient journey has been digitized to a larger extent. Right from the way he is using a wearable at his home, to the ambulance in which he is getting transported, to the hospital, to the clinic where exactly he is getting treated, given the IoT devices we all are using these days, right? And the data ultimately is getting accumulated in the data lakes. And what do we do with this data? So around 72% of the organizations on the globe don't know what do they do with this data tsunami they are going through. Now, how do you use this data? Right? But one part of it is to keep our lights on when we set that uptime, when we set the performance, upkeep. Yes. The second aspect of it, the data of whatever we are generating, how do we start making insights? How do we start making sense of the data, whatever we are generating, right? Well, coming back to the specific question on the challenges of how do we maintain the performance, uptime, and upkeep, I think there are broad challenges which the new normal has brought in all our organizations, all our industries. One is to define the right architecture. What goes where? How do we define the whole landscape and exactly which data will sit where? How will be my network devices planned? How will I make my BYOD policy work as soon as, because COVID hit, all of us were sitting back home and working. But healthcare industry was working as we were essential services. But still, we had that change, that particular change happened. Another challenge is to identify the right partners in this game. Of course, there are many partners who are giving these solutions upfront, but not everyone is up to speed, or they don't understand the business problem. They are technology companies, they don't understand what exactly we as a healthcare professionals really look forward to. Beyond this, I think cybersecurity, I think we already spoke, or Shiva has spoken at length about the cybersecurity. That has also been a big challenge for all of us to be and to make sure the upkeep of our systems and to run them 24/7. I'm sure even a tier 4 kind of a data center, which ensures 99.999% of uptime, is not foolproof. Of course, it is vulnerable, and anyone can still hack it and still get into our data. So the data loss, the data leakage is something which all of us are worried about. And that is a area of concern for most of CIOs in today's world. So yeah, Deepak, I hope I answered your question on that.
Yes, absolutely, Tushar, and you touched on all those points. I have a follow-up question for you, Tushar, before I move forward. That because uptime was becoming so critical, and data loss, as you correctly said, had to be prevented. A lot of organizations moved to SaaS and cloud as well, because they wanted specialized expertise in managing the infra, who can provide the security frameworks around it, and as well as manage the large chunk of data that you also highlighted, the huge volume that was getting accumulated. So what was your experience? Did you also, as an organization, decide that, yes, we need to leverage the cloud too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think Deepak, very good question and very valid in today's context. I think for everyone's benefit, I think what we should all do is we should decide that what is the sensible data, what is the sensitive data which we should keep inside on-prem, and what data can sit on a cloud. And given the nitty-gritties of cloud security, data leakages, less accessibility, less visibility, given those challenges, how can we dwell with a hybrid kind of a model? Of course, nowadays the clouds are also public cloud, private cloud, hybrid, and even a community cloud is also there. Even the services are also PaaS, SaaS, and even infra as a service. So all these options are available. Every organization must assess what data is sensitive for them. Just for example, the patient data is very sensitive for any pharma company, any healthcare company to it. We would not like to share that with on a cloud, right? But on the contrary, maybe a data of some exports, whatever we are doing, of course, it's available in the public domain as well. So all that data can go and sit in a cloud. We are okay with it. But it's time for all of us to understand and to demarcate the data of what goes on cloud and what stays back. Going on cloud is still not easy. That you need to have a proper architecture. You need to define a process, a roadmap to it. But as of now, I think just to begin with, if you segregate your data, define a strategy, you should be able to do the cloud gateway as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tushar. I think that's a very valid point that you said, the demarcation of data and using that as a framework to decide what can go to cloud and what not is a key thing. And I'm very glad that we as BMC2 are, providing that service to a lot of our customers to help them decide that what is it that they can move to SaaS and what is it that they should keep on-prem. Fantastic. Thank you, Tushar. I'll move to my next panelist, Celestine. Celestine, when I, as a sales leader, go to the market and meet organizations, one thing that most of my customers ask me is that, how are you ensuring AI, ML, and AI ops within the technology that you talk about? So everybody is using that terminology today. Bring in artificial intelligence and machine learning in one way or other. And one particular area where organizations today are asking about AI, ML is bringing down the event noise. When I say event noise, means that I have world-class operation center. I have my engineer sitting over there, but they're bombarded with problems. Something is down, something is not performing well, some connection is lost. My customers are suffering right now. My business is getting impacted. But what do I solve first? Which problem do I attack first? And what intelligence do I have that this problem, can be solved very easily using auto remediation measures? So what do you see as the scope for AI, ML in your IT operation, and what has been your journey, Celestine?
Thanks for the question, Deepak. I think during your introduction, you set the context correctly. Like there have been increased use of artificial intelligence, machine learning during the past 20 months to automate some of the mundane activities. So if you look at the past 20 months, I'd like to start from where you stopped there. So look at the past 20 months. The evolution of technology is quite phenomenal, and technology adoption is fast. And COVID has been indeed a catalyst for promoting the digital transformation, right? And every industry is forcing to adopt latest in the market as an alternative to the traditional way of doing. So everything around us is changed. The exam model, learning platform changed, conference model changed. We all believe earlier, like PM need to be there around their developers to make the development, the work need to happen, but that's also changed. Coming to specifically to the manufacturing sector, right? There has been paradigm shift in the manufacturing sector. Like when looking at the line manager's task, when looking at the floor manager's task, the industry is focusing more and more to automate the mundane activities through RPA. So if you look specifically to the car industry where I am representing, there has been significant adoption of digital technology. Now the cars are turned out to be computers on the four wheels. The connected car industry is fast growing, transforming the traditional car maintenance activities. Gone are the days now, you don't need to look at the car logbook to schedule a service of a car. The connected car or the autonomous car will continue to evolve and reduce most of the human intervention in the operating model of these industries. Right? Coming back specifically to the AI and ML. So due to the increased adoption of artificial intelligence and machine learning in the manufacturing sector, the machine has attained certain level of intelligence by itself to carry out certain tasks without human intervention. Right? The so-called master-slave relationship. That is when human turn on a switch and machine does. That concept, that model is changing. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is transforming the traditional master-slave relationship between we as a human and the machines. The concept, the pattern is going, right? So going forward, what I feel that machine and man will complement each other to improve the quality and the productivity. So in automotive industry, very specifically coming to the industry, the customer perspective is also changing. Now the customers can walk in to the dealer and customize the car. They offer individual tailoring and on-demand experience, right? Everything from your car, from the dashboard, the color, the seat, everything can be changed. Artificial intelligence and machine learning make this possible. So when you come to the cloud, you also touch based on cloud, like how hyper automation is happening as we speak now. In the past, we have been automating certain mundane tasks, but now we have the ability to go to the last mile and fill the data which I want. That changes the way we get the things done. I think that is something which I want to relate from my industry to your question. Over to you, Deepak.
Fantastic, Celestine. I want to share an anecdote here. A long time back, when we used to buy desktops, it used to say Intel inside. Now, then to a stage where cars have come, that internet inside, and now the cars are coming with which says AI inside. So the world is moving so fast that the terminologies that only geeks used to understand at one point of time are now being understood by anybody and everybody. We all saw that the word quarantine, that at one point of time was limited to only antiviruses, is now being used in our household by our family members as if they always knew it. And AI, artificial intelligence, I think is going to be another buzzword that everybody in the world will know, because they will see it written on some consumable or some product or the other that they will use. So thank you. I think that's a very, very relevant view that you shared, Celestine. I'll move to my next panelist, Vrinda. Vrinda, we hear a lot of time that time is money. And the more you are able to do in less amount of time, the better it is, because you can recover everything else, but you can't recover time.
True.
And nobody is more busy in the world than a CXO, because they are made responsible, such as yourself, to manage a very large business, a very large IT environment, ensuring productivity of the environment, upkeep, cost of operations, everything has to be under your belt. Most CIOs and CXOs I've seen are asking for a business service view, that when I'm sitting in my cabin or when I'm looking at my screen, can I have a visibility that how is my business faring? What is the availability performance of my business services that I'm delivering? You come from an organization that says AI in its name. I mean, nobody can be closer to the technology than you. So what is your view, and how do you achieve business service views inside your organization?
Yeah, so I'll take off from where you mentioned that, say a few years back, people, if they were working in a very hi-fi place, would have access to technology. And today, most of us have very good technology in our phones, right? So the expectation from people is, if I can get this done on my phone, and why should all my office applications be any worse, right? They have to be better than that. And also, people are used to a lot of technology where information is available to them at their fingertips at the time that they need it, in a way that they want to see it, right? So there is customization, there is information, and there is anytime availability that comes into picture. So using, let's say, I'll give you a small example. The other day, I was trying to make a payment through Google Pay, right, which is my most often used app for payment. And I couldn't pay. I just switched to phone pay, right? So what happens is the customers also have so many options that switching because of the technology is very easy for them. And those are the things that need to be arrested, because once you've lost them, now I use phone pay more often, let's say, right? So that is where time is money comes into picture, because I really don't have the interest or the patience to sit and figure out why it is not working through this. I would just switch. It's a similar concept in when you're looking at a business view. How quickly can you get the information out to the relevant people which can be actioned, right? So telling them that this has failed is not an important info anymore.
Yep.
A has failed, what needs to be done or what all is impacted, that's also very important, right? So a particular server has failed, what else has failed, who needs to be informed, what are your alternate options, how quickly do you think that this can be brought up, right? When you're looking at AI, how often do these things happen and what should I do to probably prevent, or what is the trend when it goes like this, the possibility of this failure happening is very high. See, that's where your AI and all come in, right? It's basically an extension of those trending. Also the intelligence that the system has learned over a period of time, which is more difficult to monitor for a human. So a business view for me would not only be for the CXOs or for the C levels, it's for every leader in the organization with respect to their activities. What is important to them? Can I tell a particular team leader that this agent, is going to get into what do you say, not meeting of metrics by the end of the month in the first week itself, so that they can get the required info, required help, so that at the end of the month they are really not as bad as they would have been if they did not get the help. So every leader in the organization has some kind of a requirement. The idea is, with the data available, can you give them that? That is when you've done the particular activity of giving us business view, rather than just saying this has failed or this has not been met.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we in BMC generally refer to as a service impact modeling. That if, like you correctly said, if a server goes wrong, what else is getting impacted? Which business service is impacted? And what is the even impact in a dollar terms? I've seen dashboards where the impacted service also sees the revenue loss to the company, that how much money am I losing every minute if my service is not brought up quickly, which is now getting more and more important. So very well said, Vrinda. Thank you so much. On the same note, I would request your views also, Tushar, that again, you went through a storm, and for you, being the head of the organization, it would have been super important to know what is working and what is not working. Whatever is not working, why is it not working, and what is it impacting? So if you can share your experience too, how did you arrive at a business service view, and what did you achieve out of that view that came to you?
Yeah, so I think Deepak, I will take this same question and I would answer it in two different ways. Okay, one way is I just add on what Vrinda had already mentioned. I'll not repeat whatever she has said. She has already shared. Of course, AI ML is knocking the door, and it is used very commonly these days, right? AI, on the other hand, actually has four basic types, right? The first and foremost is something called as reactive machine. This is where you play a carom or a chess with a computer. Second one is around limited memory, right? So this is where you talk to a chatbot or your Alexa's at your home and all. Third is around theory of mind. Now this is where the human emotions are actually copied and built into a system or into a machine, and the machine tries to imbibe the emotions of human being. And finally, self-awareness. I call it as Terminator level. Now, this is the level when we reach on third and fourth. I don't think we humans, human intelligence is required, only for exceptions. Beyond exceptions, I think day-to-day operations systems should be able to do. So when AI ML kicks in, the expectation is that the system should not only tell you that, okay, this is the insight, or this is the actionable insight what you should focus on, but it also should take action and tell you in case of exceptions, right? So when it takes an action, it is actually driven by a rule that, hey, look, if so and so happens, take so and so action. And if at all there's an exception to this whole story, then the human angle comes into picture. This is where the next manufacturing space, or take any vertical of the business. You take marketing, you take BD, you take any function. Wherever there is a possibility of automation, this is the epitome. This is the North Star for all of us, right? This is the first part of the story. Now, when you say business service, I'm actually looking at it from a lens that how digital is actually creating additional service kind of a view for the customers or for the organizations themselves. Just to give you a quick context, maybe each of our organizations are divided into 3 basic objectives. First is to acquire new customers. Second is to provide them a best-in-class service. We all try to do that. Third is around productivity or efficiency or profitability, right? That is what a broad bucket. So every organization is dwelling amongst these 3 business objectives. Now, as a CIO of an organization, I would say that the CIOs are the next COOs, because as a CIO of the organization, you're touching the entire ladder. You are actually hitting right from your productivity. You're doing some fixing the foundation bit, like I mentioned at the beginning of the talk. You then coming to giving the best-in-class service. This is where your some AI ML based recommendations can come into play, that if so and so customer is coming, I can recommend him and I can upsell him with so and so things, right? Yeah. That is where the retention part of it, the stickiness of the customer comes in. Getting the new customers also, where you actually can do a lot of things on the website, whichever data is available, and try to analyze that what can be or who can be my next customer, right? So IT or the digital as a team in any organization is actually now changing the way how the boardroom discussions are happening. Now the CEOs are more interested to see 10x. They are more interested to see that, okay, if I give you $1 million, can you give me 10 million back, right? So the discussions in the boardrooms have changed from a cost center to a profit center. How can you actually change the way you do business? There are multiple new lines of businesses which are coming in around digital, around the whole AI, ML, RPA, digital twin, or you name it, and the technology is there and we all are using it some way or the other. So I think there's a paradigm shift in the industry, and definitely IT or digital is actually changing the way the things are happening. So I would say business service way of it is also, you can look at from this perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, Tushar. And I'm pretty sure that at this moment, all businesses, irrespective of industry they are in, they are using multiple perspectives to look at business services, from customer acquisition to ensuring customer adoption of their service, to customer satisfaction, running analytics, creating views on those. I think that is becoming super critical to take intelligent decisions.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tushar. I'll now move to Celestine again. Celestine, another thing which is pressurizing organizations is the pressure of ensuring profitability, because the sustainable growth is a growth that gives you profit so that you can flow the money back into the business, into bringing more innovation. Now, profitability has a very, very strong connection with cost. And in the last 20 months, one thing that I've consistently seen is that budgets are getting cut. So every organization is finding various means that within less money, how do we deliver more? So where we optimize our cost. And therefore, being the head of the IT, we face an even bigger pressure that on one side, we want to deliver innovation, we want to do more. On the other side, our CFOs cut down the money that comes at our disposal. So first, what has been your journey, and have you been able to leverage AI ML or AI ops within your organization to bring down the cost of your IT?
Yeah, good question. And I would like to relate to what Tushar had been talking now. So what he was telling is that CEOs are now elevated themselves from the delivery model to the value-driven co-creator of a business or co-innovator of it. So that's where now we are heading. So regardless of the size and type, so every organization is making all possible efforts, leaps and bounds towards going digital, like leveraging the technologies which we discussed before, like Tushar also mentioned, and Banda also, like latest technology like artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, and robotics, cloud, etc. Right? Cloud adoption in traditionally, it has been perceived as a way forward to sustain in the digitally empowered market, and therefore we as a leaders pursued cloud adoption as one of the critical part in our digital transformation journey. That has been the past. Now in this pandemic situation, especially with the cloud and on-prem or the hybrid mode or in the multi-model of the cloud, the cost management has become very complex. This is something which you have seen. So artificial intelligence and the predictive analysis is now increasingly used to control the cost. AOps specifically is helping IT operations to proactively approach and predicting some potential cost overrun. Something let me just put it down. So budget, when you said like some of the problem challenges we see is the cloud providers, as we are in a cloud and multi-cloud, they added new features and sunsetted others and creating new integration itself. It's all add to the cost, like a vendor locking period and unforeseen spend on infrastructure upgrade for the connectivity, VPN, etc. Another challenge in terms of the cost. So when we are all heading towards cloud and multi-cloud adoption, the mismanagement costs, we are in the risk, and the cost risk is pretty huge in the mismanagement. Some of the things which we specialists or focused was platform management. Very complex due to the multi-platform, multi-vendor, multi-contract. SLAs are complex, right? So what we identified is that they all should be, if it is managed by a dedicated team, like all DCR, data center, colo, infra, cloud contract, individual SaaS contract, enterprise mobility platforms. Right? So the dedicated team, if they manage it, and so this reduces some kind of complexity there, right? That is something we identified. And secondly, on the monitoring, very important part. So we need to be conscious in the cloud is something which we are worried about, the thing which we don't know will happen in the future, right? So this is a fundamental idea behind the monitoring concept which I'm talking. The artificial intelligence AI engines can be used to analyze so the huge logs we get it from the monitoring system to identify certain patterns there. That is going to help us, right? So IT, now what happens is our IT teams are now monitoring multiple systems, multiple platform across different cloud. That is adding some kind of complexity. AOps is definitely going to be useful in that area, and which we are now stepping into, even though fully not adopted. Governance, so more system in multiple platform create more dependencies and also interdependencies. DevOps and CI/CD pipeline, etc. So it plays a greater role. So what we found is that bring all governance, all monitoring under a single backplane and integrate with AI engines to that. Monitor all the logs and create some pattern around it. That is going to help us in terms of cost optimization, or at least identify some pattern around. So this is what something I want to share as an experience from my end.
Absolutely brilliant, Celestine. And a lot of things that you said resonated with what I have often heard from customers in particular. The heterogeneity of environment is something that haunts everybody, because one technology doesn't fit everything. And then ensuring the patterns are well understood, where infrastructure is mismanaged, where it is lying unoptimized, and how we can leverage it somewhere else so that we can reduce the cost of IT operations, plays a critical role. And AI Ops helps us bring that intelligence for sure. So thank you, Celestine, for sharing your inputs. I'll move back now to my very first panelist, Shiva. So Shiva, another very key angle of managing your IT operations is shifting from reactive to proactive. Taking the hint from what Celestine said, patterns. it is very important in businesses these days to understand the patterns of failures. That if something bad happened in my infra or applications, let's say an application went down, what is the pattern of that time? And is that pattern emerging again, so that I can have a proactive alert coming in, that I can take a proactive action without my customers getting impacted. So what has been your experience in using these different forms of analytics and then doing some pattern analysis to be able to become more proactive than being reactive? Shiva, you're on mute.
Sorry. Am I audible?
Yes, absolutely.
There's a saying like what cannot be monitored and measured cannot be controlled. So that is one thing. It's always there in all of our top priority list, because what happens is earlier we used to have lots of log monitoring system and stuff like that. And all that is there, but somewhere you need to have all this information, which has to give all this data has to give some useful information as a insight. So that is where is the lacuna at this point of time. I think that is applicable even for the business. So I know like what is happening in the business, and most of the times what happens is the data entry is what is generally will have a problem as far as business is concerned, because generally people don't use through the system, so they work only in the system. So most of the times the postmortem happens in the system. Once the event has happened, then the entry gets into the system. But as far as IT operations is concerned, I think we have plenty of information which in terms of audit logs or log sheets, and it's already available. Only thing is we need to have a common tools kind of things which would help us to interpret something from this and infer from this and get some kind of useful analytical information, where at least this has happened in the past and this is what is going to happen. Generally, what happens is even in our network at this point of time, at this juncture during the pandemic or whatever thing, you don't know like what are the network what are the traffic which is coming inside your network. Though you have a lots of network monitoring, analyzer, whatever you call it as plenty of things, but still the final touch point of giving information to the CIOs and CXOs or CISOs, that is what is lagging. What we have recently done is that we have done a zero trust implementation. So we were surprised that whatever the traffic which is coming across the globe, which is not related to our thing, so there are plenty of opportunities for us to learn lots of things, and we come to know that what is happening inside network in a kind of in the global map and stuff like that. It's an amazing thing. This is only from the security perspective. Similarly, from the performance perspective, I think there are lots of tools are already available. It is the problem here is now you have a tool for monitoring some server performance, and there is a tool for monitoring the analyzer, and there is a tool for analyzing a network. And I think there is a need, or maybe one tool which can fit in all and give one dashboard in terms of security, in terms of network, in terms of performance, in terms of utilization of the resources inside the servers or whatever the storage and stuff like that. That because if it is not being monitored properly, it has a huge impact in terms of the outage for the business.
Absolutely,
There
absolutely.
are a couple of scenarios we can many of our colleagues in the industry also might have gone through it. Because of one particular person's dependency, the entire maybe storage goes down or the network goes down, because it should be person independent, right? So that is where the analytical and GA and ML kind of tools with our top of all this the information which is available in the tools. It should be a top layer where it can give a final dashboard like how we run a business. It's like a physical progress and the financial progress. Similarly, we need to have a performance progress as well as from the security perspective. We need to have a dashboard. So I think it's all there in the bits and pieces. That is purely my view.
Sure, fantastic. Thank you, Shiva. Manager of manager is super important in today's world. Rather than having multiple technologies and multiple dashboards and having this confusion within our IT ops, that where do I look for a potential problem? Can that be autocorrelated? And can a pattern analysis based on analytics be done for me so that I become proactive? Thank you. That was a very wonderful thing to share, Shiva.
We have recently kind of, I've just told my team this in the lighter note. So there is no way that you can, if you ask for so much information in one particular review meeting, it doesn't happen. It only presentation comes.
Yes.
So then I said, it's okay. Let's have a review in a particular period. One day we'll take only one. So there is nothing called a consolidated review. So that is one thing I think it's every CXOs will up for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Shiva. Thank you so much. I'll go to possibly my last question to considering the time. Vrinda, I'll finish with you today. On the similar lines, moving from reactive to proactive, what has been your experience? And you already heard Shiva, a lot of things he talked about, building consolidation, which has its challenges, but doing pattern analysis, identifying, various sources to see where potential problems lie. So what do you think? What role can analytics play with your experience while ensuring that all of us become more proactive towards identifying potential problems?
Like some of the other speakers mentioned very rightly, it's a very complex landscape out there, right? With that kind of a landscape, if we are expecting people to understand and figure out the problem, it's nearly impossible. And the amount of time that it will take for understanding the issue and then resolving and then trying to get the business back on its feet is not something that can be afforded as of today. So it's very important that you use analytics to identify the possible failures and fix them before they happen as much as possible. Analytics, continuing from the previous conversation, the analytics also needs to be able to connect, saying what went wrong, what is the impact, what needs to be done to get it back, right? It's not possible without analytics today, considering the current landscape. If the amount of time, the amount of effort, and the accuracy all will get impacted. So there is a real need to have the proper analytics in place. And it's also important as to whoever is implementing this understands the output that is required. It's not just moving what was being done manually into a system, which is one of the biggest mistakes that happen that we see. Whatever I was doing, I just move it to a system. That's not what it should be. You're reactive and not proactive to reactive. That is the difference, right? You have to be able to figure out what is your end goal, give that information in time for people to take the necessary action.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Vrinda. Thank you so much. I'm super glad that I witnessed so many amazing thoughts through the all stalwarts who were with me today. Thank you so much, Shiva. Thank you, Celestine. Thank you, Tushar. Thank you, Vrinda, for sharing some amazing inputs. And to conclude, I would just say that the theme that we started with, digital transformation, is truly that is being experienced by the world. And we saw the four panelists showcasing their journey, their challenges towards adopting AI ops and AI, towards becoming more proactive, towards generating a business service view, towards bringing down the cost of IT operations, and how to stay sustainable and successful. So thank you to all the panelists for some great interaction today. And with that, we conclude the panel discussion. I hand over back to Nishant. I'm not sure if there are questions which have come up, but we have a couple of minutes.
One last thing, I think before we wrap up, one last thing. Yep. I think special thanks to Elets team, Manu Singhal, Dr. Ravi Gupta, Rehan, Nishant. I think you guys have done an excellent job of putting the panel together and making sure that the questions and the moderator Deepak, to you as well, for being so kind and giving all of us the equal share. So thank you so much for being so kind, all of you.
Thank you, Deepak, and thank you, Elets team. I think we had a great session. So thank you, panel co-panelists. So I think we had a great non-sharing session.
Thank you very much. As Deepak said, good to see and connect with such eminent speakers. So again, thanks to Elets Technomedia for facilitating this platform. We appreciate your help.
Thank you, Deepak. And my co-panelists, thank you, Elets. It's been a wonderful experience listening to all of you. Lots of things to think about and see what we can do as well.
Sure. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And over to you, Nishan.
Thank you, panelists, for such a stimulating discussion. There were some great insights on, scope of AI, ML, machine learning in the IT operations, and also, how we can look at strengthening the IT analytics capabilities and right data management, etc. So, as a token of appreciation, I request all the speakers to stay back to accept the award of participation. So, let's have the award on the screen, please. So thank you, Vrinda Pai, for joining the session. Thank you, Vrinda Pai, Director Information Systems, 24/7. Thank you, Shiva Subramanian, Global Chief Information Officer, VA Tech Web Limited. Thank you, Tushar Zadeh, Chief Information Officer and Chief Digital Officer, Origin Pharmaceutical Services Limited. Thank you, Celestin K. Thomas, General Manager, Digital Technology and Infra, Nissan Digital India LLP. Thank you, Deepak Singla, for the fantastic moderation for the panel. Deepak Singla, Director Sales, India SARC, BMC Software. So thank you again, everyone, for contributing your valuable time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Nishan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.